Hello and welcome, neighbor, to the beautiful Sitgreave National Forest. And here I am out in the forest with my trusty dog. I'll just give you a panorama round view. It's just gorgeous out here in the tall pines. That's what it is. There's not fir trees out here. They're pines and junipers and a few of this and a few of that, but mostly it's the tall pines. Great place to bring your tent, your dog, like there he is. I see him. It's Whiskey. Whiskey. Come here. Hey, Whiskey. Good boy. Say hi to everybody. Hi. It's a good dog. Okay, go ahead. Go on. Go on. Says, do you have a treat? So glad you're with me. You know, this pandemic, we're in the they're going in the 5th month or something, or 6th month or whatever, I don't know. It's definitely caused some change. And well, I don't ever want to call it good. But there are things that have happened that at least we can say are interesting. And I mentioned them before, one of them being that we've learned, at least many of us learned that hadn't learned yet, that we don't have to have the mall, the bar, the sports bar, the movie theater, the gym, the swimming pool. We can live without those essentials, which aren't essentials at all. And we can also live with something else that's not an essential, and that's regular church attendance. Not essential. And in fact, having to do that probably wakes many of us up to something that we would have never realized without these restrictions that we think are so terrible. And I think they are too. Don't get me wrong. Governors and mayors have no constitutional authority whatever to tell you or me where we can congregate or what we must wear or not wear, masks or anything. I mean, all kinds of weirdos and weirdisms are bubbling to the surface. And another thing that happened is that the RV industry, and notice I'm sitting in the doorway of a classic 1996 Bounder, which is the best $10,000 I ever spent, because it's my home, our home, Susan and me, and Whiskey. It's our home on wheels. RV sales are skyrocketing. I mean, if you're an RV salesman right now, you're making money. People are buying them. If you have an RV that you want to sell that you don't want anymore, sell it now. People want them because people are now looking for ways to get the hell out of Dodge. There's got to be a way to get out of this. And I have to say, that's interesting too. I mean, you know, we have this RV and we've had it stored for a year, 2 miles down the road from where we live. And I've said to people, well, we ain't been going out as much because wherever we used to like to go, we moved there and we live here now. And yet, we both knew, Susan and I knew, and Risky knew it too. He got it off of us. He's very, very intuitive. That we didn't want to sell it. And so now, yes, we are. And in a couple of weeks, we're going to take a trip east and south, go over to New Mexico, go down to White Range Missile area, Las Cruces, New Mexico, near El Paso, Texas, and visit our daughter and her career Air Force husband and our grandkids, and hang out with them in Clark. That's our RV, Clark. He's Superman, masked as a 24-year-old RV, but he takes us everywhere and never lets us down. So, off we go. Now, the other thing that's happening, and this goes back to my first point, is as we learn that things we thought were essential are not. In fact, if you've really learned, you know that what things we called essential really end up hindering some other things which are essential, like nature, trees, family time, talking, sharing, being simple, staying in, eating what you have in the house, living simply, spending not as much money, etc., etc. Those are more essential. And I say this with a good attitude, not in any kind of rancor or adversarial way. But honestly, it's good for church Christians to realize also that Sunday church attendance in an auditorium type building, even that is not essential. It's not. In fact, that, like the other things, like malls, sports bars, gyms, movie theaters, church services, become, in a sense, masks, hindrances, things and events and places that permit us not to or keep us from sensing and seeing the real things that are essential. I said this a couple of months ago on a video, but say it again. Nothing's more joyful for Susan and me when we go down into Phoenix to see our two of our daughters and their grandkids and their husbands, than to know that when you get to their house, they'll all be there. Because at least in the midst of the closed down, lockdown, there's nowhere to go. There's no bar, there's no sports bar, there's no gym, there's no movie theater. They're just all there together, and here we are as a family, and it took a pandemic to put us together. Now, careful. Everything I'm saying is not to say that the pandemic is good. It is not. People have died. We don't know how many people. We don't know, because the figures are not real. They're manufactured, so we don't really know. But we know people have died. We don't know if wearing a mask is good or not. We don't know, because we can't trust the people who tell us whether a mask is good or bad. Even the doctors have changed their mind. Oh, it's good, now it's bad, now it's bad, now it's good. There's so much we don't know. We do know that something is happening from which people are dying, being sick and dying. And of course that's not good. But in the midst of it, at least you and I, who have not died yet, at least you and I, if we want to, can see through some things that this situation has caused us to be able to see through, and maybe gain a little bit more acute sense of reality. Now that brings me to another thought, and I'm not going to go on and on today, but the concept of conditioning. You and I basically have no idea how much we are conditioned. We are so conditioned by our parents, our culture, the mores and rules of our social interactions, the theological rules of our churches and our Christianity, if that's what we are. The rules of politics, the rules of what we're supposed to believe and not believe, what we're supposed to think is important is not important. All those things are conditioned, what the Eastern mystics call conventional knowledge. Things that are known that have no factual basis, they're simply agreed to things by the society in which we live. For instance, It's kind of vulgar, but I'll tell you what. In our society, it's conventionally not polite to belch at a meal. That's conventional. That's conditioning. In other societies, it's a sign of great respect and gratitude to belch at a meal. Hold on a second, my dog. Okay, sorry. My dog Whiskey's running around out here, and I didn't think anybody else was around, but I heard another dog bark out there, and I thought maybe he was getting in trouble, but he's okay. He's right here. So conditioning and conventional knowledge. Now stay with me. Here's a simple case of conventional knowledge. A red light means stop, and a green light means go. Do red and green have any connection with stop and go? No. What's their connection? We've agreed that red means stop and green means go. It could have been purple and yellow. Could have been blue and green. Could have been black means stop, white means go, white means stop, black means go. But we chose red and green. Now that's simple. A more interesting one for theological talk and discussion is that Hebrews 10:24 that says, don't forsake the assembling of yourselves together as the manner of some is, means go to church every Sunday. Belong to a church, go every Sunday, go to the prayer meetings, go to the Sunday school, obey the pastor, submit to the church doctrine. That's what Hebrews 10:24 means. Does it mean that? Absolutely not. It doesn't say anything about any of that. It says nothing about that. But conventionally, we've been conditioned. So the agreed upon meaning of Hebrews 10:24, we've agreed upon it because we've been taught that's what it means, is that you're making a serious biblical mistake. In fact, you're violating Hebrews 10:24 if you don't go to church on Sundays. That is called conventional knowledge, which is also called conditioning. Now, what's interesting about the COVID thing or anything like it is that if you can't do that, like in China, you know this story. It's not a new story, but in China, church attendance was outlawed with the rise of Mao and the rise of communism. And so what happened? People started gathering in homes, in basements, behind storefronts. Were they violating Hebrews 10:24 by not going to church on Sundays? Of course not. Going to church on Sunday to an established building with the pastor where you tithe your money, where you submit to the doctrines and agree to the belief statement and agree to be loyal to the pastor, etc., is nothing but conditioning concerning conventional, agreed upon knowledge. What we're doing when we do it is we're adding our vote to the agreement. Yes, I agree with you. That's what Hebrews 10:24 means. So, if having fun means going to a bar, if staying healthy means belonging to a gym, if being a good Christian means going to a church, all of which are simply conditioned examples of conventional knowledge, not to have the conventional ability to do those conventional things leaves us with the opportunity to maybe find a deeper or different or new understanding of what those things are. How to be healthy, how to have fun, how to hang out with other believers if you're a Christian. That's all the good stuff. I don't want there to be a pandemic to learn the good stuff. But if there has to be a pandemic, I'm not sure there's a pandemic yet. I don't know. Nobody's defined what a pandemic is. They just call it that. More conventional knowledge. It's a pandemic. Why? Because that's what they're calling it. I mean, really? Isn't that the truth? Is it a pandemic? My neighbor over where I live, one of my neighbors said, you know, this isn't a pandemic. If this is a pandemic, you'd call me up and I'd say, sorry, my wife died, then our neighbor died, and everybody's dying. I'm the last one of 4 people alive. That sounds more like a pandemic to me than whatever it is, 1/3 of 1% of the world population being infected with the virus. But again, I'm not saying it's good. Any sickness is no good. But like John Piper said when he got cancer, he wrote a book called Don't Waste Your Cancer. At least learn something. And at least we can learn that the things we've called normal, the meanings we've given to very simple things like don't forget to gather yourselves together as believers, don't just happen in the way we've convinced, or that the church leaders have caused us to have conventionally agree about. Any more than you can't have fun if you don't go to the movies, or can't get fit if you don't belong to a gym. What nonsense! Nonsense! Listen, you're not that stupid. And neither am I. And if you're a church Christian, you're still not that stupid. And in fact, the real sad thing is, I'm feeding my dog here while Whiskey, lie down. Lie down. Oh, what a good dog he is. He's such a good boy. Good boy. The real sad thing is that not only does don't forsake yourselves, the gathering of yourselves together as the manner of some is, not only does that not just mean don't stop going to church on Sunday, which translated means it's only what it means. Listen to your pastor, he'll tell you. Not only is that not only what it means, believing that means that you've missed all the ways in which you can gather yourselves together with other like-minded people, and it's still good. It still fulfills Hebrews 10:24. You miss all that. Well, that wasn't church. Well, too bad. It was to me. And it's true of all the things. If you think you have to go to a gym to be fit, you're going to miss other ways to get fit besides going to a gym. If you think you can only have fun at a movie or a sports bar, then you're going to miss a lot of ways of having fun that have nothing to do with a movie or a sports bar. In fact, both of which aren't really fun at all in the last analysis. And so we don't have to be stupid. We can see things as they are. And in fact, I'm going to close now, but I'm going to get more of this into this more in the coming days. In fact, there are things inside of you, things within you, talents, dreams, abilities, visions, that your nonsensical obeisance and belief in conditioned truth, in conventional knowledge, conventional agreed upon knowledge, has completely stopped up and caused to never be expressed. Don't you understand? And I'm talking now as a pastor of over 30 years, and a churchgoer of over 40 years, 50 years. Don't you understand that the reason your pastor and the church world itself is so concerned that you don't fall away from going to church, or don't fall away from thinking Sunday morning is, if you're not doing that, you're on thin ground. Don't you understand that there's an investment in there by the church leaders? Those people have an investment that requires us to show up. It's really not about obeying the verse. For some it is, but for many it's not. The late Christopher Hitchens, I used to love to read, I still do, love to read Christopher Hitchens. He was an atheist, brilliant, kind atheist. And it was his conviction, and I'm not sure whether he was right or wrong, but it was his conviction that all the big-time leaders, I could name them, the most famous Christian leaders in America, in history, they all knew the deal. They all knew. That what they were teaching, preaching, advocating, demanding was sort of a little bit of a holy scam. And I'll end with this, and I didn't really think, I thought, well, that's too radical until I read Bart Ehrman, who's an alive, current Christian, went to Wheaton College, and realized that what pastors are taught in college and seminary about the Bible, its inerrancy and infallibility, they never teach to their people because they're taught something different than the Bible's infallibility and inerrancy. And whether you believe in that or not, the fact remains that there's a line, there's a necessary agreed upon convention in society and in the church world, which is very important to the powers that be. Now, they're not all evil, they're not all wrong. It's good that we have a convention that says red light, red means stop and green means go. It means that we're not going to run into each other as often in the car. That's fine. But when it gets down to this behavior in terms of your spiritual life, your personal life, your social life, your physical life, this behavior is the only appointed one, and this one is not, then we all need to take an adult, seasoned, reasoned second look. And at least, if nothing else, this, quote, pandemic, unquote, has given us the opportunity to do so. So let's do it. Thanks for being with me. This is the Prodigal Pastor, coming to you from the Sitgreaves National Forest in north central Arizona. Well, let's say it again. Coming to you from central eastern Arizona. I think I know where I am. And I'm glad you're with me. Thanks for watching. All the best to you. All the best to you and yours. And I'll be back soon. Bless you.